Ready? All right. In this Board of Selectmen for the town of Vinalhaven meeting to order for Tuesday, January 4th, 2022. First off, roll call. Jake Thompson, Leslie Dyer, myself, and Ally, Andy, our town manager, Elizabeth Bunker, deputy town clerk, and Eric Gasparini is absent tonight. So next minutes, approve the minutes from the December 14th, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Number 3, approve and sign treasurer's warrant number 27.
So moved.
Second, all those in favor? Number 4, approve agenda. Do we have any additions, subtractions?
Just two under new business, C and D. C, community action grant. D is the water district MOU.
What is it, MOU?
Yes.
I thought that's what it said, but I wanted to make sure I wrote the letters down.
Yep.
I move we approve the agenda. Approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
All those in favor? Number 5, communications. None, correct? Unless there are any, all right. Number 6, speakers from the floor.
I wanted to give a report from the Housing Committee. I can wait and do it under the committee reports if you like.
Well, you're not on
Not
there,
on the
right? Doesn't
agenda,
matter
though.
if she's not on the agenda. Should we just have her do it now, Andy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to let you know that we met and we looked over the ordinance, as complicated as it is for even the planning commission to understand. And so I brought our concerns to the planning commission, which I'm on as well. And we're going to take it up at the next meeting on the 13th. It's going to be a focal point, actually the total focus of that meeting. And I don't know that we can solve all the problems in one meeting, but all members of the planning commission are really committed to solving the housing problem in terms of the ordinance as much as we possibly can. And we're hoping that the planner that Andy's been talking to will be on board soon. And one of the first things that he'll do is work with us on the housing issues, because we want to be sure that what we're bringing to you are really makes sense. Matt's been working on a map of the town water and sewer area that I went to the water district, and Will Calkins has 2 maps on the wall. The water map has the parcels delineated, so you can actually see where the water is, but the sewer map doesn't. So I don't know how Matt's figuring this out, but it must be very complicated to try to figure out exactly where the water and sewer both are, so that you talk about changing the density or allowing a higher density development where there is town water and sewer. The other thing is Matt's looking at the average lot size in the village overlay district. So we really have a sense of that when we're starting to talk about numbers. So it's very complicated, and we really do need the planner's help. So I'm hoping that he'll be on board soon. And one of the first things that he'll do is help us so that we can bring it to you in a timely fashion. And the other things the Housing Committee is working on that you had authorized us to do is we're looking into grants and opportunities for weatherization audits and home repairs to see if there's money available and people available to come and do those things. Sorry, I'm having trouble with my voice tonight. And we're going to put something in the wind soon, asking if people are interested in these programs before we get too far into the weeds about it. I mean, I'm assuming people will be. I know years ago, there was a community block development grant, and a lot of people took advantage of that. So I'm hoping there are things like that now through HUD and other programs. And one other thing is we said we would talk to area land trusts. And we've been reaching out to lots of different land trusts, even beyond the state of Maine, to see what they've done in terms of housing, whether they've offered land or helped set up community land trusts, which are separate from conservation trusts, but have that component. So we've been working on those things. I just want you to know we're active, we're working, and we're really committed to getting things done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one question.
Sure.
Have you folks looked into, and this may not have any bearing at all on Vinalhaven, but the Habitat for Humanity organization?
No, but my understanding is that that the people who want housing help them build it themselves. And I just didn't know if people here could do that or would do that. And then also there's the acquisition of the land. So we haven't really looked into that, but we could. We could put that on, as one of the things to
Yeah.
look into.
There's a certain number of, it's called sweat equity
Mhm.
hours that the homeowner needs to have.
Right.
While the house is being built.
And where does the land come from generally? Do you know?
I've only done it in cities, so I'm not really sure. Baltimore and Harrisburg was where I helped with Habitat for Humanity.
Okay, I'll call one and find out. Thank you for mentioning it.
When you said the energy audit, is that when you said that they did it before? Is that the stuff that KK was doing?
Yeah, and I was
Okay.
gonna call Dell today. I forgot to call Dell and find out how they did it, how they started it, who was involved in it.
I know that a lot of people did it, 15 years ago when KK and those guys came around and did it, so.
Yeah, and they volunteered to make the window inserts.
Right.
There used to be an outfit that used to come and they rented my little house when they'd come out, and I don't know if I would still have his card, but I'll look for it and see if I can find his business card, because it's been several years since, and that was under that community grant.
Oh, really? That would be really.
That was a
helpful.
long time, yeah, it was probably 6-7 years ago now. They came out quite a bit and did work for people.
That would be fantastic, because Marjorie doesn't remember.
Oh,
Marjorie
really?
Stratton, yeah, because I think she was town manager when this happened.
Yeah,
But she doesn't recall.
okay, I'll see if I can find that
Pretty sure-
information.
Pretty sure the name is the Home Energy Answers, I think.
Oh, yeah,
Home energy.
yes, that's
Answers.
exactly who it was.
Keith McPherson.
Yes, you know him?
I worked with him.
You did?
I was KK and then, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yes.
What's the fellow's name?
Keith McPherson.
That's correct. I remember, I don't remember you working with him, but I remember Carol would be the one that would contact me about them coming out. Yeah,
Do you
nice.
think he's still around?
He may be. He's out of Albion, Maine. I don't know. If he's
Albion, Maine? Thank
Efficiency Maine has, on the Efficiency Maine website, there's a whole list of qualified partners that can do the energy audits and weatherization work.
Right.
And if you're gonna access the state's rebate programs or incentives through that portal, like you have to work with one of those partners. So I mean, that'd be a good place to start for contractors to see if anyone would be interested in coming to Vinalhaven, or someone on the island would want to go through the steps to become a qualified partner. That'd be even better. But
Yeah.
then you don't have the lodging costs for the property owners having to work then.
I thought Efficiency Maine's whole thing was the rebates, and that if you bought a heat pump or something like that, they would
One of the
help you
many,
get the rebates, but I really want people to come out and do energy audits for free.
one of
Find
the,
out what people need, especially low income people, and figure out how we can get the money to get the work done. I do want to say Andy's been incredibly helpful to the Housing Committee and the Planning Commission. He's very well versed with the zoning ordinance and has brought up things that some of us were not aware of. Very helpful.
thank you. But yeah, they offer a lot more than, I mean, anything from appliances, heating units to more efficient gas stoves, which I don't necessarily have a whole lot out here. But they also still have, as far as I know, they still have the weatherization programs, the insulation follow-up work that they wanted homeowners to do as a next step. Basement attic work. Programs I think are still well funded.
Okay, I talked to someone there, but I didn't get all that, so I'll call again.
Yeah, but if you can check their website, I would recommend, they've always had a really good website.
Okay, thank you. It's very helpful.
And the only requirement is you have to be on Social Security.
No,
That
anybody.
might help you afford you more of a rebate, but as a homeowner, I can call them up and.
Yeah, I think
I
they,
think he's joking, aren't you?
that is Eric's father, you know.
You read my mind.
All right, any of the speakers from the floor?
Well, you guys are next on the,
You guys
you guys are next on the agenda.
Yeah, we'll move to number 7, committee and department reports appointment, a harbor master clarification on harbor ordinance.
But the harbor ordinance states that only commercial fishermen can have permits. Well, it's a public place and it doesn't leave any openings for the summer people to have permits, other than the outer islands. And I think it needs to be revised to include them also, so that we can include other residents that need parking space, even though we have an extreme limited amount of docking space for everybody. It excludes them. And I don't think that they should be excluded. Go ahead.
Are you familiar with what's going on with issuing permits now for punt tie-ups?
Well, that was,
What you're
my
talking
question
about?
was gonna be, how many permits have actually been issued? Do we know?
Darlene?
Close,
She's not here.
close to I think close to a dozen, between all three all
And
three
we haven't
floats.
even-
Wasn't
It hasn't
our,
made the wind yet.
Okay.
wasn't our initial thought on this, if I remember correctly, that we're trying to leave the town wharf up by the parking lot for more of the residential, and then the other two wharfs were supposed to be, like the one by the ferry would be better for the outer islands and the commercial
That's
people,
not
and
how
no,
it's- That's
and
not how it's written.
no, well, that's kind of what I thought was. I thought the one up by the town dock didn't have any permits. It does.
Yeah, that, I did put a quick memo just to highlight the wording that they're referring to for each float has its own kind of criteria for who can access a permit. I mean, the challenge is that there is limited space regardless of which one you're at. And there's a lot more users than we have, space for without risking your boat being damaged. And so, if we read the ordinance as it was approved 2020, 2019. It does, Jim and Peter saying it just doesn't even afford the opportunity for island residents that aren't commercial fishermen or outer island residents to get a permit for any of
And
them.
we are so limited. We are so limited. We got the folks downtown, we got that one float on the harbor wharf. It needs maintenance. It's not in the best of shape. We have two floats down to the ferry boat. There's room enough, three floats down to the ferry boat. There's room enough for two more. There's only $10,000 funded for it, to add more floats. So that would barely cover one, probably we need pilings too. We need two more floats down there. We don't have enough for our own fishermen, let alone the summer people. So,
Would two more floats
excuse
be
me?
enough? Would two more floats be enough?
No,
No.
no.
That was my.
But,
We are in desperate need of more floats for the fishermen and for the community.
Is that something that could go into the ship grant that we're doing now or not?
It could, I mean, we still gotta find a place on land we own to put more floats out.
Well, that was my next question.
Well, he was talking about, so that technically isn't ours,
What's that?
the ferry. He's saying there's room for two more down there.
Right, but in and of itself doesn't solve
No.
the demand or the need for more. So, yes, that's one that likely could work. But there's two more floats with the end float being left open presumably for drop off access.
so
Even if we built, even if we built them ourselves, which would be a challenge with the space up to where we thought about having it up to the new town garage, to have it up there and to volunteer our own time. With the cost of lumber and everything gone up, $10,000 isn't gonna barely cover one.
Right.
So I need to request that we find a way to provide adequate dock space for the community. And as a whole picture, that's all I can ask.
So initially, it was, to start off, we should put one more similar float down at the ferry and one more float to replace the one that got hit by the snowplow up at the town parking lot. The Eagle parking lot. And that would help a lot. What's happened now, we had an ice up way up at the town parking lot. Probably like 4 weeks ago, and everybody got out of there, even though there was no notice of the floats coming out or anything like that. And down at the ferry, it's a zoorama. And, it's just, there's no room to tie up. Marine Patrol tried to come in a couple of times and he couldn't. There was no room to shift the boats anymore.
I had to break the ordinance and just take matters into my own hand and say, yeah, just go ahead and do it. I'll take the heat. So.
But
And I have to do that a lot with a lot of people. I have to take the responsibility of doing the best I can to service the people that need to be serviced.
So initially, we had thought Jim and I went around and we came up with a generous estimate of how many people could tie up at the 3 different locations. And we didn't do a count midsummer, which would have given us, how many commercial fishing boats, skiffs are needed, how much space is needed for them. And that would have been helpful. In midsummer, you're also gonna have maybe somewhat unidentifiable boats as, stuff that's only used once or twice every other week for people to get out to their pleasure boats. And that presents a problem. But what we tried to do is come up with a comfortable number that the floats could accommodate and base the permits on that. And then we ran into the problem of resentment of people having to, we're not even charging for the stickers, but guys are already up in arms.
Oh, yeah.
And then it still left no provision for anybody, a resident that has to have a way to get out to their boat in the summertime. So adding 2 more floats will help a lot. And B, the other purpose for this is to know whose boat is whose. Right now, the Marine Patrol came in like a week and a half ago, and I helped make a little bit of room for him to tie up on the very end at the ferry. And he said, does it look like anybody's registering their boats? There was 6 boats there that had old stickers, some 2 years old. And, so if you've got a permit on there, we're gonna be able to identify whose boat is whose. And that will help. Granted, we're not the authority to say, you have an unregistered boat, go do something, but we can say, you can't be here.
So the 2 new floats would be one to replace one
The
at
one
the
in
town
the
parking lot,
Town parking
and
lot,
then
Eagle.
an
Yeah.
additional new float down at the ferry boat, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
Still not enough.
That's what I was gonna say, it's
And the
probably
fo-
still
and
not
the
enough.
float up to the thoroughfare is not the best condition anyway. I've had some of the people, I don't know who they are.
We
say
just
that
had a new
I
one
don't
put up
think-
there not too many years ago. They pissed because it's too high.
Right,
And we had Ford put a lower one out on the end. I mean, we had that new one
That's
built
how
and
it
everyone's mad that it's too high. That, I don't think that float's in that hard of shape, or it shouldn't be, but
I'm
maybe
just
it
saying
is.
I've had complaints against it.
Well, that's probably why, because it's too high. We've had plenty of complaints about that. We didn't realize when it was built that it was,
And complaints about the float down to the harbor wharf.
when you say harbor wharf, you mean the fish plant? Okay.
We just need some folks. We need some folks.
it's a start.
So you said you went through and looked at numbers. What kind of number did you come up with total that you could probably tie up right now?
28 and 20. isn't it?
There was 3.
15, 8, and 20.
15.
15, 8, and 20.
15. Well, you mentioned the other day when we talked, it was
They've got it
15,
on.
8, and 15 when we talked the other day.
So
Maybe that's
38,
changed.
38 skips is what you think they keep, the ones we have now can hold,
Comfortably.
right? And there's probably what,
yeah, what's actually tying up?
20,
Well,
20,
that's
12,
the
and
problem. is
25.
We didn't count them prime time.
How many-
It would have been good to count them on a Sunday in August.
Right,
The problem is gonna be when you give out X amount of permits per float, and these other guys are gonna say, well, I don't have a permit.
Yeah, we
And
had
all
to,
hell- and all hell
we-
breaks loose.
we basically have to abandon that limited number.
what do we think 2 floats is gonna cost us right now? 30,000?
Sounds like
Waiting
it.
for an estimate still on cost for materials.
To copy the one down at the ferry, granted lumber has gone up, but the flotation hasn't really gone up there, the formed poly. You could safely figure 12.
And that's not including labor, right? Or is that including?
No, that's
That's
including
everything.
labor.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I mean,
And I'm willing to volunteer some labor, and Jim
There
is
you go.
willing to volunteer some labor.
if we're gonna be looking for an extra 25, say just 25,000, should we look a little bit further and get a third float? Because it sounds like we would need a third float anyway, right?
Well, then that's gonna require a support. Like a piling driven in
Mhm.
down the
Okay.
ferry, which could be $2,000.
So if we
Or
had,
more.
say if we had 40,000 in the budget, would that cover 3 floats and what you're talking about?
That'll cover my labor. Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking, you said 12,000 times 3.
I mean,
So
And then,
that's 24.
'Cause if
So
we put
30
in-
would- 30 would cover it.
You put it in.
30
one-
would cover 2 floats and a piling, and then 12 more for a third float,
so that would be
42.
40, so.
Because if we just get the 2, we're really only put in one new one because we're
Right.
replacing the old one, so, but we obviously,
What- all
we
right.
obviously need more than that.
Is that one that's getting replaced, is that better than the one that's already at the fish plant, or is it worse?
That
the
We're
worse?
not even talking about that one.
Well,
That
no, what I
one,
was
that
wondering-
one could be hauled out and beefed up and then put back in.
Could you just do that right there on that little launch there real quick, or would it be require being hauled out with a truck on land? And
Randy could do it with Fred Granger's truck. Put it right up on the shore, and I could come down with the backhoe, stand it up, or the town could stand it up, flip it over, whatever needed.
well, this is stuff that probably should be done between now and, what do you think, May, June?
Give me a chance to come back from Florida.
I also need a budget to work with.
Yeah,
Right.
no, but I mean,
So-
that part of it, for the fixing that one up, I would assume we could fit that in this year's budget.
You gotta wait till you have the floats back in at the town parking lot, so those guys would have a place to tie up.
Yeah, we'll have to put it in the budget this year to,
But those funds then wouldn't be available until July 1st, right? So
Right.
we've got to find money now, which,
Well, I mean, do you? I mean, how long, we've gone this way for
Ever.
a long time, and we've always need more. You can put 5 out and they're still gonna need more. But, you run into the need to plan for where are they going, what do they look like? You need extra pilings or supports to be able to keep them in there safe. There's a lot in being mindful of the town's budget process and saying, make sure we can appropriate it, plan for it, appropriate it, and figure out how, where it's coming from.
I guess my thing is, if it gets approved, we have the funds July 1st, but then that's not the time to take floats out and put I guess you can put new ones in, but you can't take one out to repair it then, right?
Well, it's just that one that needs,
Just that one, okay,
and that could be done in a couple of days.
okay. All right, well then, it's something we need to add into the budget, which is, we're starting that this month, right? Or next month, this month.
I thought it was gonna be started,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so I think we should look for trying to get 3 floats. That'll help alleviate things.
There's no way to put an extra float down at the fish plant. I mean, that's as big as you can go, right? That what's there is there, and that's pretty much all you can do,
Yeah.
right?
Anything that's stuck out
Be in the way of the launch, yeah.
would get the way, no, it would get the way of the, it's so exposed. We had 2 boats sink, we had 2 boats go adrift. Like, 2 months ago.
That's what I was thinking. If you went the other way, you'd be in the launch. I wasn't thinking about sticking them out in the harbor.
Can we
Block
fit
the
a
channel.
bigger one down the town parking lot? Or is that,
Drowns out at low tide, probably if you go
You
too
could
far.
add, there was one there.
Yeah.
There was an additional one there. And, Jim argued that with me, that we're gonna be cutting into wharfage
For
for
people
people
taking
moving
traps.
traps.
right,
But if there's a float there, you're gonna go down to the fish plant parking lot.
right.
But if there was a float there, you could just have it out in prime time and maybe
True.
move it, it wouldn't, maybe you could put it out in, say, June till September when you really need the extra float. Perhaps. I mean, a lot of people aren't putting traps over and taking traps up in that stretch, and that's when a lot of the tourists actually need that would, you could probably fit an extra one in for that period and it wouldn't be a huge deal, I wouldn't think, but that's just. a
There
thought.
was one there.
All right, so
We'll
we
put
should-
it in the budget to try and
to
do,
get three.
try and in the islands for,
Yeah.
so we usually fund it for 10.
That's what we had in the budget when we planned 12 months ago. The prices, of course.
Right.
No, but I mean, that's what we usually budget for, so if this year we had to add to it for 1 year, I mean. It's
definitely
something,
something
it's
that has to
something
be
that we
done.
need and that a
Yeah.
lot of people obviously,
And if we had 2 additional floats, but it sounds like you're recommending we get away from the permits anyway, right? 'Cause-
No, I'm not recommending that at all.
Oh, you.
No, that way we can.
just
identify
don't have a
which road.
limit on the permits. is
Okay,
what
don't
you're
have a
saying,
limit
right?
on the permits. Gotcha, sorry.
Just give out as many permits as,
If you limit the permit,
Sadly.
I mean, put yourself in other people's position. I can't get a permit, you son of a,
Right,
okay?
okay,
So
all right, so.
I think we need.
I
to
think
say-
when we wrote these ordinances, I thought we wrote commercial fishermen get first priority, then the islands, and then anyone else after that for the things. I didn't think we ever excluded anyone. I don't ever remember that language. Did we
Yeah,
just
no.
not write it correctly? Is that, this is
No,
what
that's-
it actually says in there, what you wrote here?
Mhm.
It
Oh,
doesn't provide for the resident.
What you say, Martin?
But then you.
But that isn't
you're
how we
also-
meant it. We meant it like how we dole them out, like commercial fishermen at certain wharfs would get first priority, then outer islands, and then it would go to everyone else. We didn't mean to exclude everyone. That isn't,
That's
that
kind-
wasn't a purpose of how we wrote it. We wrote it like, who needs access first? Commercial fishermen, like, and then the one down by the ferry, outer islands people, the Greens Island people, that's where they like to tie it best because it's that much closer to get there. So that's how we listed it. And then after that was supposed to be anyone else. I don't know how we missed it when we wrote it, but that was the intent, or that was my intent. It wasn't to ever exclude anyone. It was having a list of, like the moorings, when you have a mooring list, you give them out to commercial fishermen, then, that's how, kind of how this dock space was supposed to be set up too, is what I remember, and I don't know how we missed not having
So
those.
do we need to update the ordinance?
And then in the winter.
Probably if it doesn't say,
I know, because it's kind of discriminatory.
that isn't how we meant to
No,
write
it's
it,
not
though.
how we meant to.
We
no.
just missed it, like, we meant to write it kind of how the harbor ordinances have a list of first priority, second, third, who, but if you want to get rid of the limits too, I mean, that probably,
So we need to update the ordinance and we
Or
need
we
to
gotta
put
have-
something in the budget for 3 new floats.
Or at least update that
And they're- And
section.
also designated when someone does it a permit, they are stating which float area they're using, downtown, middle, of the ferry boat. Now, in the wintertime, when we take them floats up,
it's probably not a big deal because there's not as many punts out anyway, right?
It's awful down there now.
yes, right now it's an empty.
Grace, the boatyard, solid full of boats. You wouldn't think it would be that big of a deal.
Yeah,
Oh, all them boats that will, that fish, that go down there are running right up there.
I just wouldn't think it would be that big of a deal this time.
So what you'd have to do is have like a different colors for
Permit.
different colored
You
permits.
just
for
wrote
different-
on it where your preference was.
Just right, ferry,
But if
fish
you
or
had
town
different
or
colored
something like that,
ones
just
for
have-
different ones, it'd be easier for you to identify. Like a red one goes here, blue one goes there, yellow one goes there.
Except if you're gonna try and do it different color for each year.
I'd be happy if they just had a permit.
Well,
Right.
there
so I
again,
can identify
good
who they
luck.
are.
right.
That's all I really need, so, for their benefit and ours, but it's ultimately for their benefit, so that they've got a problem, we know, we can help you. Well, we can't help you if we don't know who you are.
right.
Right. Okay,
yeah, we'll try and address it, but that wasn't the intention of the punt thing, is not to exclude anyone. It was just to have a list of,
And be careful you don't word it. The commercial fishermen, people that own houses on outer islands, and then don't say residents, because you
Just-
get people that aren't residents.
well, that
have
isn't
the
what we meant. We
pleasure
meant
of
basically, we meant after that, everyone,
No,
anyone.
The public will.
Right, that's kind of, we didn't ever mean it. I don't
the
know.
first 2, I think, stay the same, the order, commercial fishermen, Outer Island.
for that one.
And then
All
that third is
others.
just everybody else.
And you might want to include in the wording, max 16 foot.
We do have that.
Including motor,
That's in-
I think that's in
And-
there.
It is
it
16 foot.
must be registered.
That's also in there.
Yeah, we had a max and someone had it at 14 and I said, well, a lot of people have 16 foot Carolinas, we need to put it to 16, so it's.
16.
But that's almost too big. to have.
Yeah, I think it is too.
You don't need a 16 footer to get out to your boat.
But a lot of people aren't just gonna say, geez, I gotta go get a 14,
Right,
we're already there.
right.
Yeah, well, that's what it says now, 16 foot.
Yeah, that's-
And it's, you're supposed to, the state law says you have to register them, so we shouldn't have to write that. I mean, it's a state
What
law.
we did, because we were acknowledging at Jim's request to say, help give me the power to, because they're on our floats,
Right,
make it a rule that they have to be registered if they have an outboard. If they don't have an outboard, that's why we want the permit, because you don't have to get it registered, but we at least want something local that we can
yeah,
look
that's
at.
like we said, even for a kayak, you should get one, so then if it goes adrift, there's a number on there that can be tracked to you, because
Right.
if your kayak goes adrift, there's no, if you never rode it, and there's no identification, you're not gonna get it back if there's no.
The state gives away free identification stickers.
There's
Okay,
some in the
I can
office.
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's some out here now.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that was the intent of that too. But we'll address
Thank you.
that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
That was never our intention to exclude anyone on a float, obviously.
No.
That doesn't make any sense.
7D Road Commissioner report.
I didn't include anything written. All the sand and salt is here and in the building.
Good.
We have one, the pickup truck has been down, getting some work done. We've had issues with the plow lighting ever since the company had put the new wire harnessing in. So it's back with them to correct. And that's due back this week. And then backhoe front bucket's been out of commission up in Herman, getting work done. They need couple new pins for the quick connect. So the seats in there rusted or something, got them stuck in there. And so the dealer said it would take potentially up to 120 days to get the pins in. So they're trying to find, we can bring it back and use it. It just means we
120
can't
days?
interchange the buckets, that big orange snow pusher we've used in the past. We just, right, until we get those pins in, and we just can't change it out. But I said, and we all said it'd make more sense to at least have it for the smaller bucket.
Can they just bolt it on for now without the pin, like a different
We
way?
can just use the bucket that's on there, the 1.5 yard, whatever it is bucket. We don't have to use that snow pusher. If the pins come in sooner, great. They've been.
There's no sense to leave it up there for 120 days.
No,
Right.
we won't
need it now,
So they're
right?
going up this week to get that as well.
Winter will be over in 120 days, I hope.
We hope, yeah.
I think there's some car patching today, as cold as it was. The Galamander still planned to have we got 2 more sides built, just need to come off the trailer and on, and we got 2 more sides to put together still. But the idea is going forward, those are panels that they can just take off and put back up.
Yeah.
So it should be a lot simpler going forward.
Faster, yep.
The ball ground, I know there's been a lot of questions about the ball ground. It didn't have a chance to get cut this year because it was so wet, is what it is. There's about as much water in there as I think as we normally have at this point. So if it freezes off, maybe it's something that could get weed whacked or something at this point, but kind of is what it is, given how wet it was this fall. Just couldn't get a mower in there without getting it stuck.
Yeah, that never would have worked. Unfortunately.
Hopefully it can still come around and work out, but well, if it doesn't, it'll be disappointing, but
Well, it's gonna be 50 degrees and raining tomorrow. It'll probably fill up on top of the ice before it melts, and maybe it'll freeze again after
The
that.
grass is so tall
Well, when I was younger,
Yeah.
the quarries would freeze over and you could go there, so.
though. Yeah.
Well, let's not hope it's that cold.
I'd rather have it be that cold, maybe kill
I
off some of the
remember
stupid ticks.
riding my 4-wheeler on this basin. It was so cold, like when I was
Yeah.
just out of high school.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, other than that, it's
or not the basin, but the ice harbor.
mostly what they've got going on. Yeah, price that I know.
Okay,
Still working on the job description for the public works directors. I mentioned there are 2 meetings, couple more. Still now.
so do we have anything posted for the open positions, or are we still waiting on?
Waiting on me to look at that and see if that's something you support.
What is the new minimum wage, you mean, 12.75, and what do we, we have to offer probably at least another 20% above that, even to get someone on the way.
I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, that's, been consuming a lot of my time getting ready for budget stuff for next year. Even though it's an issue right now. I mean, our floor was at kind of 1350, for a few different positions. The wage floor in mid-coast is upwards of $15 to $16 an hour.
$14.50 at McDonald's for part-time. I think we gotta at least probably go to 15 for a floor, right?
Yeah.
I would think, but
I was looking at a lot of jobs posted in the Rockland area, at just a bunch of different types of businesses, mostly private, just to get a sense of what their lower entry-level positions were paying. And I found probably 10 or 12 different companies, ferry service included. Of course, they were the lowest for their OS position, was the lowest on that range. I think that came out to be close to $17 an hour with the businesses I had seen jobs posted for as the floor for what would likely be entry-level positions. So it is something that be a conversation for budget season, certainly, to figure out what to do. Because if you're bringing in a new hire, even at 14 to 15, or just more than that, I mean, have a conversation about what does that mean for those that have been here.
everyone else is gonna have to get bumped.
Every employer's challenged right now, so trying to attract and retain at the same time.
Say if you work for Apple, they'll give you 180,000 to stay there. Depending on what department you work in. If you know something.
All right, we'll move on. 8, we have no old business, correct?
None that I had remembered to put in.
Okay. Unless any of the members have old business.
Is it old business?
So, all right, we'll move on. 9, new business, a application for funding to Island Institute for Tidal Weather Station.
We got a few of the Sea Level Rise committee members on Zoom virtually, and Jonathan is here as well.
I thought we already gave them the okay for this and we didn't, or is this just because they got the budget broken down? more?
Well, there's a cost for the project in which, some of the funding, a good chunk of the funding, they're hopeful will come from Island Institute. There's a cost, an assumed cost to keep the weather station, tide station, weather station going thereafter, the initial setup. And because of that ongoing cost, operating cost thereafter, I had suggested they come to the board to just approve going forward with something that would incur costs. And so Munch and Jonathan have been really good to try and figure out what that might be or what it looked like. And I don't know who wants to take the lead on following up on
Well,
that stuff.
I can get down to this right now. I have, as part of the Sea Level Rise Committee, I've volunteered to dedicate at least a year to this maintenance. So for a year that's deferred, we have no idea really what this is going to entail. I think that the estimate that Munch made, that Mary made, is kind of very conservative. I don't think it's going to be a whole lot of work. It's just going to have to be looked at every once in a while. The actual installation is going to have to be looked at every once in a while to make sure birds haven't fouled it, that people haven't messed with it. But it's pretty standalone and it's pretty robust stuff. And even if a specific sensor goes out or whatever, they're fairly inexpensive to replace. The big question is that the computer end of it, somebody has to know how to maintain that and keep the legacy of all the data. And the problem with that is there's that learning curve. What I plan on doing is creating a manual that is as idiot-proof as possible, so that can be handed on to a person and without too much trouble maintained. I don't see this thing as needing a whole lot of maintenance over time. The other issue that complicates things is that the Sea Level Rise Committee has in its mind the idea of adding more stations as time goes on and integrating them together. And that makes it very complex to estimate what kind of maintenance this thing requires. But I can guarantee that for at least a year there will be nothing, and hopefully more than that. I don't know how long I'll be able to dedicate to this, but I'm dedicating at least a year.
Thank you.
Oh,
I mean, having something like this would only help us with grant writing in the future, wouldn't that?
I mean, in a lot of ways, it'd be helpful. I know there were a couple, at least one ferry boat captain that was very interested in being able to see what the weather at that pen was. Just because there's certain conditions that they can't get from the buoy, in that pen. They have some of the tidal data where we've got cancellations because of tides. It's very interesting to know what that is and was there instead of the US Harbor's projected number. I think there's a lot of ways that we don't know right now exactly for the benefit it'll have, but.
Yeah, the vision right now is to immediately get into the ferry captain's hands, instantaneous weather, or at least within a few minutes for the ferry dock. And that's one of the main goals that I have set at the computer end to make sure that they're getting that information. What use of the data will have in the future is one of the big questions, and then that leads into, well, if other people are going to be using it, who's going to give them the access and whatnot? That's where the problems come in, because we can't know.
We do know that by having these, especially the tidal station there, we can build a database of what's going on in our water. From here on, we don't have to rely on tide projections expectations from other places like Bar Harbor or Portland. It's our own data, what's going on here. And I think that will help us with in projects going forward that involve what the tide might look like in another 15, 20, 30 years. So there is at the moment, utility for the island and also the long term.
Yep.
So what do we need?
Do we need
To
what
make
is
a
needed
motion to
for-
approve the grant
I think that'd
going
be-
forward, or how would
that'd be
you?
wise. Yeah, I mean, they're at a point where they've got it pretty well, I think, all drafted, right?
Yeah,
Marion?
looks good.
And all the support letters are there. All the data and information needed. The permit from the DOT is actually included as well. They gave us a utility location permit, allowing us to put it on their panel down there at the end of the.
Very bad.
They already have their own boxes and power supply.
Mhm.
That's been great. I mean, that was, their involvement in getting us to that point in that permit was very helpful and straightforward, I think.
Yeah.
So what does the motion have to look like? We
And
support the sea level rise committee going forward with this grant project and
to submit the application.
to submit the application. I make a motion that we support the sea level rise and submitting this application to the Island Institute.
Second. All those in favor?
Thank you, guys.
I
Thank you
think
very
it's
much.
cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. 9B, quit claim deed. Is that Forrest? Am I saying that right? Young
Yeah.
heirs.
So everything from Dave, or will be when you sign, when you give it to them.
No, it has all, it was some pretty old ones.
Say
1981, 92, 93, 95. Just for whatever reasons back then they were passed by and not filed.
Well, I make the motion, we sign this quick claim deed for police,
Second.
All those in favor?
No, I don't think so.
Eric's gonna miss out on signing something, he's gonna be so sad.
I know, poor little guy.
All right.
9C Community Action Grant.
This is a grant program that the Governor's Office for Policy Innovation in the Future put out to try and get communities to take the next step in the climate action plan that they created. It's not huge money, but for some of the work we're doing, and there's a long list of things that are directly qualified for more funding or higher ratio of funding. There's things that aren't on the list that could be done. We just have to put up a higher percentage of share. So in order to be able to, David worked up this memo. She had attended at least one, if not two different sessions. I think 3 different tracks within this. There's one that's a community action fund. There's another one that is like a regional approach where you can have someone come in and kind of help do more planning work. We've done a fair amount of planning work. We've got a few different plans to work from. In the flood resiliency checklist, we got a downtown master plan that and highlight some of these things. We've got a sewer climate adaptation plan. So we've got quite a few infrastructure things in mind that we could look to do with this. There's some things that the Sea Rise Committee probably has that certainly could meet on that list. The font's really small. I can send you the link if you want to look at that list with a spreadsheet. There's a lot of things on there. I had gone through and initially kind of talking to Gabe about it, but highlighted probably 15 or 20 different things that I knew were on our radar. Some things that could complement the downtown project, some things that might be beneficial to property owners that are in the flood zone and want to make changes or improvements to their property, floodproofing. Gabe kind of worked up a proposal there to kind of work with the town to submit something if we wanted to do that.
So we would have to do things on this list here.
There are a few things that we would have to do, including adopt a resolution.
Okay. I'm gonna say is I'm all for an anti-idling ordinance. The idling on the island drives me crazy.
I think the thought.
Maybe just because how much gas costs.
So unnecessary.
The idea for at least today is we would give you this information. It's a lot here.
Yeah.
There's no expectation to decide anything today, but I wanted to give that to the grant application of the period to submit grant.
When does Gabe want to have a decision box? It says that. they get
January
grant-
30th, right?
Okay,
It says requesting confirmation to proceed no later than January
because
30th.
I saw March 22nd.
Yeah.
I didn't even,
I think we're well positioned. There are a few things that are worth highlighting in there that worth, the town knowing. The self-evaluation and a lot of these things, just a matter of explaining, what we have in place or may have in place already. There might be a few things that we have to do to prepare ourselves, but I think we're certainly a little further ahead than quite a few communities are because of all the work that the committee's been doing.
so basically just look over this community, town climate resolution thing here and see, I mean, is this basically what it would say, or would
That's a sample or a model one that the state has put forward as a resource.
so it's just these 2 pages then?
I think they are asking that it not be modified. They want consistency. So they're asking the municipalities to adopt it as is.
Which is just here, right? Okay.
Is it just the 2 pages?
Yeah, the resolution is just the 2 pages. Yep.
But I'll send you the spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheet, so you can see and make it bigger, small print there. A lot of coloring on the spreadsheet, and we didn't print in color. It'll give you a chance to kind of look at that.
Can you re-highlight the ones you thought might be best, or at least list them so we can see which ones you were thinking of?
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's
that
certainly
is pretty
far more
small
things checked off than they're willing to give money for. We can only apply for one, at least this time around, for one thing. Each town, they said can apply for one, they prefer one.
Well, I
Mm.
think you can apply for multiple actions with the same application. But of course, then you know, you have to
We're
think
still
about
limited to
how
how much
far,
money-
exactly, 50,000
That goes too far.
might
One
not go too.
application.
Yeah,
So there's flood resiliency on here. Is there anything in here about having the maps redrawn? Because those even flood maps are ridiculous.
I don't remember it looking quickly. It doesn't mean,
Doesn't look like it.
I don't remember the breakdown in cost sharing. If it's something on the list, was it 10% the towns pay?
if it's off the list, so if it's on the list, there's no match. If it's off the list, but in alignment with the climate, the state climate action plan, then it's a 10% match, which can also be in kind. So that means it could be staff time, it could be volunteer time. So whatever 10% you know of your cost that you're applying for.
This is participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. There's no reason anyone on this island should have to pay flood insurance, in my opinion. I don't agree with those FEMA maps at all.
Well, I think things like that, I mean, the one thing and why I made those recommendations, and I know Andy has a whole bunch as he just mentioned, but we want to just ensure that any of the planning that we've done so far is making the recommendations for the actions we would apply for. Because that's the whole idea, is that they want to see that we engaged in some level of community process to get to those recommendations. So we can use the flood resilience checklist, we can use the downtown master plan, the sewer climate adaptation plan. Any of our existing plans have multiple recommendations in there, and guaranteed a whole bunch of actions in that list are from those plans that we have. So we just want to make sure that there's a clear alignment between the plan and the action that we're applying for.
Do we get credit for already doing something like installing wind power?
Well,
Not for the granting.
yeah, it's you don't necessarily get credit, but like to enroll in the program, part of what you do is this community resilience self-evaluation, and there's no like, oh, you've done all of them, you get mega points. They haven't done anything like that yet. They're just trying to ask, you know, where's your community at, and they want the communities to monitor, sort of self-monitor their progress over the years. So every 2 years they ask you to do this evaluation again to see the progress that you've made. Now that's not to say that's not beneficial, right? So the evaluation will enable us to say, this is what we've done so far toward climate action and, you know, adaptation mitigation planning, or even just, you know, hazard mitigation planning. So it does have benefit. At this point, there isn't like a clear direct line to, oh, you get points or you get, you know, extra dollars. That's not to say that won't come.
Okay.
Let us have a chance to read this over and just put it on the agenda for next time, I think. I mean,
That
quite a lot of
Yeah, it's a lot
information
of
here to
information.
digest in
That should
5
be,
minutes.
yeah,
And we'll be meeting again presumably the 18th, or at least before the 30th, I would assume.
yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to think if I could be here the 18th. I'm pretty sure I can, but. Okay. All right, yes, we will bring this up at the next meeting. Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you, guys.
And you'll send that spreadsheet out so we can actually read it.
Mhm.
I mean, I can read.
I can read it, but it does.
It would
Well,
be easier if
They
it
put a
wasn't.
lot in there.
I
if it
can't
wasn't
read the
quite so
thing
close
without my
together.
glasses.
Yeah.
I can't
Yeah,
even
I-
see it,
Yeah, no.
but yeah.
Okay. All right. 9D Water District MOU.
So are we giving you permission to sign this, Andy, or are we signing it?
It's a matter of whether, yes,
That's
Be
what I
in
saw. Okay,
agreement.
that's what I saw. I didn't read
I
that.
apologize, it didn't get to you in the packet before the weekend. That was my fault for not having sent that to Darlene. So I don't understand if you want to look at this. I know Pam's been in the loop on it because she's on the water district as their chair. So she's a little more familiar with it and can explain things from at least that perspective too. So for the downtown project, the water main replacement's a big part of making sure that happens at the time of doing all the work we're doing. And they had, the district had gone after and gotten low interest loan and some grant forgiveness. Is that correct?
Yes,
And I think it was for a $750,000 project and you had gone after for $500,000.
mhm,
And we were acknowledging that in coming up with an agreement, we were acknowledging that there's work that needs to happen above the water pipes that we would be doing anyways by having to dig up the road and putting all new drainage in and all new, everything that's below that, except for the water main. And so it was a matter of, can we come up to an agreement that acknowledges that we can help put something towards that for them to help make that happen, because it was certainly sooner than they expected. We had it on your capital improvement plan, but it wasn't for another few years.
mhm.
Other things were slightly higher on the list. So this is a way to try and work with them to try and make sure this does happen and to our and the community's benefit, that it happens at the same time. And we started down that road with them, and this is the details of what that would look like and outlines what the town's responsible for as part of the project, and putting the water mains in, and what the water district is responsible for to get that project done. Essentially, the town saying it would be responsible for the earthwork above the pipe and putting material back in and putting the pavement back on top of it. And then the drawings as built for drainage infrastructure for use by the water district, we were given that at the end. And that we'd be responsible to repair imperfections outlined in the warranty period that were outside of the normal maintenance of the open trenches. With a sinkhole or at a catch basin where they would occur. And then again, the district being responsible for all the costs for actually putting the pipes in, buying the pipes. Again, lots to look at. Understand if I should have put that in over the weekend and didn't. So if you need the next meeting to sign that, I don't think it'll hold things up.
I mean, I've pretty much read it all over. It seems pretty basic to me. I mean,
As a member of the water district board, have you guys reviewed this yet, or
Yes,
are you
Yep.
guys in?
well, and Rick Knowlton, the president of Maine Water.
Yep.
We run just about everything by him first.
Okay.
I don't sign anything until Rick says it's
And
good.
he said,
Oh, yeah,
go ahead.
yeah,
so- all right.
he's looked it all over and,
Yeah, it was a pretty collective effort to make it work, to work together pretty well, I think, with everyone included, and Gabe and Brent, engineer, and Rick have been very helpful in that way
Yep.
in facilitating all of that.
and it's been sent to the other two trustees so that they're,
Where,
yeah, well, they
Okay.
should be. It's in an email to them, so
Okay.
I'm assuming they've read it.
I'm fine with,
I say we
you make a motion?
Yeah.
make a motion, let Amy sign this MOU for the town water, just what is it, Vinalhaven?
Yep, between the town of Vinalhaven and the Vinalhaven Water District. Motion seconded, all those in favor? All right.
I'll do it on the PDF. Yeah, I'll just kind of-
Okay.
Number 10, report of town manager.
For the most part, I've been trying to stay on top of or ahead of the budget, and I am behind on getting the budget stuff put together. I usually at this point have had the department goals back, and I haven't had a chance to get them out yet. I have all the spreadsheets pretty well planned by the end of this week to get those out to the department head, so that's still pretty well on track. I guess it's probably worth talking about what the board's availability is through January through March and April. Just to make sure that I'm aware of what we want to start with when you want to have town meeting and then kind of work back from there. We tried to do it in May in 2020, and that didn't work. Last year, I think we were in June again. We waited until after school was out. So I don't know if you want to try
Probably
and
the thing
do
to
it
do
earlier.
again this year with the school availability. They probably don't want a lot of people traipsing in there in the middle of a week if they're gonna be still doing school, so we should probably wait again.
I thought that worked well to have it after. In
Maybe we
June.
were just gonna try and have it in May, just to have it a little earlier, but I think with everything that's happened in the last couple of years, it just makes sense to have it after school gets out again, in my.
And the week after graduation, right?
Right, try and get it done. We have to get it done before July 1st or June 30th, I mean, but yeah, it's usually that Tuesday or Wednesday, like the 23rd or
I don't know when
4th last year, wasn't it?
graduation
Something
is.
like that.
Well, we can have it, sorry, I was thinking we had to have it on a Saturday for some reason.
We did it on like
we-
a Wednesday or Tuesday.
Yeah, we could have it before graduation, but we had the after school, that's what actually, never mind.
I thought it worked out okay to
I
have it
think
after.
like June,
Isn't it?
20 whatever that date is, around June 25th, there towards that Wednesday, towards the end of the month.
The only thing I
Guess
would,
graduation would be
I mean, it's never
18th.
happened, but what if,
So what's that? next
Whatever.
portions of the
Wednesday?
budget
Would be
Then
didn't
next
get
one's
approved,
the
and then we
22nd.
only have 5 days to
Right,
amend it? That's the only concern. I
Say
have.
June 22nd is a Wednesday.
And I imagine graduation will be on the 18th. That's a Saturday.
Do you want to shoot?
So
for
I
it?
think as long as I know you want to try and shoot for June, I don't need the exact date now.
But I
But
think that's
difference
probably,
between May and June would be pretty big on
No,
the
it's-
schedule.
I think
so,
June is fine.
Okay.
I think that's probably what we should shoot for.
Unfortunately, I'm not planning on going anywhere for this one day, so.
she's, you and me too.
I was gonna go someplace and then had to cancel it, so.
Tighten up those budgets.
Well, I
The-
probably will be unavailable unless we can do stuff on the computer in March again. So.
So we do have the ability and the flexibility to have the board participate remotely now through the state law changing our policy that we adopted.
I'll just let you know that I'm gonna be in Florida on March 10th at the latest,
Mhm.
unless something really changes in the next 2 months, I guess. So. But that is my plan, and I'll be there for,
You guys drive down?
So we generally, in the last few years anyways, with the June meeting, have had workshops February and March for the most part, and then by the end of March, have had or early April, the draft budget from the committee for the board to review. So if that still works, then usually by that second or third week at the latest in April is usually when you've approved the budget to go forward for the warrant. And then that gives us time to put it in the town report and have that drafted and then printed before town meeting.
Yeah, it would be nice to have by the end of March, if we could have it. Maybe that's a little aggressive. If we could have a budget to us to review. Just because April is again another
Little
difficult time for me.
No, we can certainly aim for that, make that our goal post to have that,
Like
done by the
end of March would be nice. If we could like
to have all of our meetings and have everything.
have that last meeting in March, maybe where we're looking at
Full budget.
the budget as it's come back from the budget committee. I would think by then we've all.
That's
we've
kind of
all
what our
gone over it.
normal schedule is anyway, isn't
Yeah.
it, basically?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's basically what we're talking about this year too, isn't it?
Well, if we're at a meeting approving it in March, that would be a little earlier, but
Right.
still about the same time.
well, if at least the first meeting in April, if I can aim to have the warrant ready for you to approve at that point, that we've gone through all the other steps to get to the point where you've kind of identified the budget amounts.
Yeah,
You can approve the warrant that first meeting in April.
Yeah.
Instead of having another workshop in April.
yeah, yeah.
So
No, I-
that can be my goal to try and get that.
Yeah, no workshops in April. We can, that would be ideal.
Unless it's just a quick one in during a meeting, you know,
Yeah,
we've done that for like 2 little things or whatever.
yeah.
before.
And then I would think by that point, we've gone through the big portions of the budget anyway.
I would
Um,
hope so.
The other thing that's big, or I'm in mind a lot, is the offshore wind stuff. And so there's a meeting going on right now for the roadmap, state roadmap committee,
When was that? I totally forgot. When is that?
the
comment?
7th.
The 7th.
Friday.
Friday.
So I still have to draft that.
Huh?
Still have to draft that. There's some comments that are coming out of this roadmap process, this fisheries work group for the roadmap process that are helpful in informing some of that. A lot of what the roadmap process is trying to come up with is ways to mitigate a lot of the data collection up front and a lot of other ways before the wind projects get put in to say, we need to mitigate risk to fishermen. So there's a lot of things that are coming out of that process that can help, feed into
But
those
then there's
comments.
another feedback period sometime in April.
Yeah, so so BOEM is asking for feedback right now on the criteria or like the guidelines for citing.
And then they're gonna write the stuff and then they're gonna
Then
ask
they're
the
gonna draft
criteria.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this isn't the.
So this is
final.
our chance to get some, try and say, put something in there that will be in the drafted guidance for citing of wind in the Gulf of Maine. What BOEM should be looking at when they're looking for lease sites to identify lease sites. So yeah, there'll still be plenty of opportunity to express your feelings and concerns about it, where those end up, we'll see, but and there's a lot of pressure there from all over. Jake was on that last call they had, and I thought it was great that they were doing that. I think it didn't get publicized as well as it probably could have been.
Yeah, there was what, maybe 100 people for the whole Northeast down there, which isn't.
That's, yeah, I think
That's
it'd be
not-
bigger.
Yeah, there were a couple, there was probably, I'm guessing, 15 fishermen or so that spoke, ranging from,
From
New Jersey,
Delaware. There was one guy
Delaware.
from like Chesapeake. I thought he was
Yeah.
talking about all the way to up here. I was probably the furthest one north, I guess, down there. Or that spoke anyway.
so I mean, it was good they had it, it was good that some attended, but I mean, to realize it's not just the main fishing grounds that are, they're being talked about, like they're grouping all of that in the Gulf, everything north of
It was the whole
Cape
Northeast.
Cod
for it.
basically is kind of its own
Right.
site. There's a few projects already cited along the Cape and South. There's already these sites created in some cases. And so some of those people that were on that call, fishermen especially, were talking about their experiences now because there is surveying going on. The boats are out there now doing surveying. And that's a lot of the feedback that they shared was they're not communicating with us when they're in the area. They're telling us they're gone and then they still come in. So our gear goes back out and then it's not there when we go again. And they say that so there was a lot of discussion about, how that needs to be improved. The communication, as well as if gear is lost, the ability to recoup or recover the expense of the lost gear.
Yeah, some of those guys were talking about losing like half of their gear and like, and they're saying they weren't in the area and they have pictures of them in the area and not getting reimbursed and stuff like that. It seems totally crazy.
Half
That's
the
what-
gear, just right now with supply chain issues, how do you replace all that?
That's what one guy said. He said, I can't go and set these back out. The season's only, from here to then. And you said you were gonna be gone by this date, so he went and sat there and then you
Went back through. and-
right?
Yeah.
so I can understand that. That would be a huge
That'd be-
frustration.
Oh, yeah.
Half your gears, I don't know how much they could cost, but
It's a
I'm
lot.
sure just the time and money spent rigging it is
Right.
a lot of money.
Right.
And then like you said, they're not even talking about lost, product out of it. They're just
Right.
talking about what it
Just
costs.
replacing it,
Right,
yeah.
so-
You
To try to
obviously
replace
lost
it.
them.
Is everything, there's a shortage of everything.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So the roadmap process that the state's trying to create is for the industry as well as, citing of its research array. But it's supposed to, a lot of understanding and emphasis could be on that front end of the surveying work that has to go in prior to any construction. But then there's a lot of those fishermen haven't talked much about the construction process and period and what that impacts have on them. And then after construction, what does this leave us with in terms of what type of gear can be fished, how close and how, what regularity. And so there's some other components that roadmap process will try and fill in, even though we haven't experienced that yet here.
And getting the power to the mainland.
Right. Yep. So that meeting's, there's one right now, there's another one on the 18th. Our next
So
2 weeks,
should we,
2 weeks away.
should we
Um,
not have it on the 18th?
That's up to you. They're a little longer, so they're 4:30 to 7, I think is what they were aiming for
Oh,
their meeting. That's like their January meetings, they wanted to make longer. So just as a heads up.
Do you think we should change it to have our meeting Monday? Would it be good to?
We can meet Monday or we can meet Wednesday, one or the other.
yeah,
It doesn't matter to me either.
If you wanted to attend.
I didn't even know they were having one today. Andy sent me the link last time at 10:05 and it started at 10 and I happened to be
That
in.
was the
So
bone
yeah.
one, yeah.
because I think you had sent me the link earlier, like a week before, and
I sent it to a few people that morning, I thinking like there are not enough fishermen or people representing.
well, I
the
sent
state on
it
that
to the
call.
whole email list, and I don't think anyone got onto it. One of them said they'd already been on one the night before, or the day before, or something. like
Will
that.
you send the link?
So I can't remember, was it Teams or was it one of those? I don't know if it was Zoom, I can't remember. It was one of those things. It was pretty easy to get into once you got the link.
Yeah, they're both, Teams or Zoom is usually what most have been using. I can't remember what the state, I think the state uses Zoom.
Say the DMR meeting we had last night was on Teams. That's how they do their meetings.
Yeah,
So
just
what
turn
night
it
do you
on.
want to have our next meeting, then Monday or Wednesday?
It doesn't matter to me, and either would.
Well, that Monday is technically federal holiday.
It is?
MLK.
Oh, right.
So probably should do it
Let's do
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Let's just do Wednesday and we'll,
Don't have the calendar for me. I don't know.
So-
But Wednesday the 19th.
Wednesday the 19th.
Wednesday, the
Yeah.
19th.
At 5 again.
5:30.
5.
I like doing it at 5.
I'd rather do it
Get
at
done
5.
A little earlier. Just,
Alright.
I mean, if I'm out to haul, I'm not gonna be here at 5 or 5:30, so it doesn't make, and if everyone else can get out of here a little bit earlier, I think if we can meet at 5.
It
Let's do
helps because if
5.
I practice at 7, then
Mhm.
I have a good chance of making it.
All right,
All right,
Wednesday, the
19th.
19th at 5.
At 5. All right, Andy, do you have anything else? Okay. Number 11, reported members.
Ellen has her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was hoping, Andy, that you would report on speaking with Noel Munson, the planner. And
I'm
where things
talking-
are with him.
I'm talking with a couple planners. I'm not committed to anyone right now, but I don't have
Oh.
anything to report other than I'm trying to still find someone that can work with us in the planning commission and housing committee. I don't have anything concrete to.
I guess I misunderstood. I thought that you'd been in conversation with Noel and that he said he could start in January or early February. And
Right.
I thought that somehow you were.
So there's a process you, I don't want to get the cart before the horse and saying that we are or aren't working with any one person in particular. I've been very honest with people I've talked to about who may be able to do work for us. I just don't want, before
Hired them.
the board has actually seen any of the work product or the estimates or any of that, we have a policy in place that says if a contract is going to be over a certain amount, for example, we've got to make sure there's a fair process. I don't want to put something out there that says, oh, so-and-so gave us this price, and then have that be out there for someone else to realize, oh, I can go a little bit lower than that, and just wouldn't be fair to that process. But I am talking with a couple different people to try and bring someone in to help work with the ordinance revisions. The first price I got, I won't say what it was, but it certainly kind of surprised me a little bit. I'm not expecting this one to be much different. When you're looking at the ordinance hasn't been updated since 2009.
Yeah.
On the land use ordinance, so there's a lot to look at, frankly.
Well, you gotta go through federal and state and make sure everything matches up. Is that why?
State mostly. I'm
State, there's
too
not a
much on
lot
the
of federal stuff.
But, and we've had some of that initially done through MCED or Mid-Coast Council of Government now is they're gonna be called. When Bill Maypower was still there, he did kind of go through that. There's a lot left to be discussed and answered and worked on, but there's other things in there out of that are just Vinalhaven specific. Like what the housing committee is working on, the planning commission's got a lot of different angles in which it's looking at making updates or changes in various parts. And so I think given the pressure of everything that has to happen, we should have someone kind of looking at the bigger picture, making sure it's in compliance and consistent with the comp plan, taking the downtown master plan and some of the things that were identified in there's ordinance updates and making sure it's not just being done like we're addressing this problem without thinking at least what we can with some of the things in the periphery. And so just want to get numbers on what it would cost to have someone come work with us. We're going to have to probably do it in phases. And we're not going to get all the work done this winter period. There's just a lot to cover. And the commission's talked about, for example, do you want to put forward ordinance changes that are completely comprehensive, covering a lot of different things, or do you want to kind of focus in on a certain issue that's a need, right, the highest need right now, and put that forward, and then come back in a few more months when we had a chance to look at this piece now, and then come forward with that change instead of trying to put everything in there.
That
all
seems
in
like
one
it'll probably make more sense to do.
And that can help us spread the cost too.
Right.
Piecemeal, yeah.
I don't know whether the Island Institute would help us with the housing part, because I had spoken with Nick Batista about them helping us with housing to begin with and saying that this is on all the islands, and obviously the housing issues on all the islands. So maybe we could squeeze a little more money out of the Island Institute for this. Or maybe even someplace else. I don't know, maybe the Maine Community Foundation or someplace, I don't know, but it's a big issue.
Mhm.
And it's on all the newspapers, it's on the news. Janet Mills is talking about, I mean, in fact, Janet Mills, I think, said they had money for affordable housing, and you can't have affordable housing unless you have the ordinances that permit it. So there may
Well,
be,
and other, right, we talked before too, you need people who can come in and make an investment and actually do the building, or a group or someone. I mean, it's more,
That's
it's
for building.
more than just the ordinance, right? We've identified that there's other things that also have to happen. to
Could
make-
the Vinalhaven Community Development Corp potentially help with that funding? Like if there was funding available, they could apply for it.
Certainly a group like that. I don't know where they stand and what their
But that's
priorities
similar
are,
to
but,
what,
yeah,
something like that.
are they set up now? Do they have a 501c3?
don't know.
Is George Kendrick involved with that?
No, I'm not familiar.
Oh dear. Okay, so I wasn't just talking about building though. I mean, if we change the ordinance, if we get funding to help, with the planning process, we can change the ordinance here, and that doesn't cost us any money. And it gives people the opportunity to adapt accessory structures, build tiny homes, use the density bonus in a way that people actually understand what it means and can compute it. That won't cost anything. That's not building, that's allowing people in the community to make adaptations or building, that they're able to do, mother-in-law apartments, whatever. So I think that would really be worth trying to do as soon as possible, so people see that we're really serious this time. We're really going to make changes where we can within the community, without having to get outside resources like building. So do you just have any sense of when we might have a planner at all?
Not right now, I don't know. I apologize, I don't.
Sooner rather than later, though, is what we're shooting for,
Right, I
right?
mean, I got meetings lined up, with one, I've already gotten a number from another. And for the holidays especially, and everything else, and everyone else's plate. It's on my radar, there's meeting scheduled, so. Hopefully for the next meeting, selectmen's meeting, for something to present, I can.
That'd be good.
Reported members.
Andy, I assume you found the town has hired a new firm. Do audits. I'm totally blanked out on that. It's like, okay, you know what I'm talking about.
That was in the email
Yeah,
today, right? You
That was
finally
in your
found
email
someone.
today, right?
I have a phone call scheduled this week or next with a firm. No one replied when I put the RFP out, so I'm making an assumption that if I bring a willing firm at this point to the board that's reasonably priced.
Are they gonna be
we
able to
can
do the
feel
school
comfortable.
too? Did you talk
They
to the school?
may.
Did you talk to the school? Because
Yeah.
are they still looking to, I assume?
I think they do have one right now.
Okay.
Yeah, the
all right.
school
Yes,
has,
they do.
has somebody.
But I hopefully at the next meeting we'll have a contract of sorts to present from the firm to
Okay.
do our FY21. So it sounds positive or promising that they'd be able to, I said in the email that we'll be able to get to it in March, which is certainly later than we would normally look to have it done, considering we just got the FY21 final draft given to us last week. It'll be sooner than last year's at least.
Yeah,
2 years
well,
ago. And then hopefully from there, we can get on schedule, and this firm hopefully will, if they like us and we like them, will hopefully get us back to where we were before, doing it in the fall.
thank you.
I don't have anything on the board members that I could think of. Hopefully everyone had a good holiday. Hopefully everyone doesn't get sick.
I think it's a question of when, not if. I had the question on broadband, if we heard anything back from Spectrum.
I don't honestly know if I've reached out to him yet.
Okay.
I'll go and look and see if I did. I know it's on the to-do. Okay. See, I can't remember if I did it now.
I know there's a lot of other competing priorities, but I want to keep that out there just because
Mhm.
there is a lot of money available in the state and federally, and I'm getting to the point where I'm going to move away if I can't get better internet, because I can't keep working like this. It's driving me crazy. I realize most of the town doesn't give a crap about that, but that's my situation, so I'm trying to stay on top of it.
I know Kendra Joe had reached out before Christmas, just to kind of see where we were at. And I don't think I had a chance to get back to her yet on that. But what what they were seeing is that some of the companies were taking advantage of some of the funding out there. I mean, I think a lot of towns were still having to put something in.
Yeah.
Which still brings us back to, would the town be interested in putting anything forward?
Right.
Would the company require it? Or, I mean, there's a lot of what ifs in there, but.
Right. But until we reach out and just find out what kind of interest they have, we're kind of stuck, so.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Once again, I wanted to ask something. I really appreciate you bringing up the broadband issue. I really was afraid that it was totally dead. I'm really sorry and sad that no one from the medical center and the school spoke up at the public meeting or here at the selectmen's meeting when that was discussed, because it's obvious to many of us that there's a lot of benefit for this community through broadband. And frankly, the people who said, you're gonna have more people like me here if you have broadband, they're gonna buy Starlink. People from away who want to come here and have internet, they're going to have it,
But
I've
ordered Starlink and I'm still waiting. I ordered back in May and nothing. So
I have one I'm not using. Can I let you use it?
I don't know. That's the thing, that there's no customer service or anything. What I've read is like, if you ordered it for a specific address, you can't then set it up somewhere else. So
I thought that was the whole thing.
I don't
You could
know.
like have
How
it
do
on
they
an
know where
RV
it
and set
is?
it up in the woods wherever the hell you want.
I don't
to.
know. I don't know.
That's what I thought.
They
too.
didn't recognize my address as Marsh River Road, so I put in Crockett's River Road and they recognized that and I got one because I had no internet for 3
Right.
months. It was like, okay, I can't function. I have it up at the farmhouse. It's not connected. I could bring it all down to you. You could try connecting it and see. I mean,
Might as
what's the
well.
harm? I could say I'm staying there.
Yeah. I
There you
mean,
go.
Your house
They took
sitting.
my $100 deposit and I've heard nothing back. That was-
Well, you
Ah,
have to
7
pay
months
for it
ago.
every month. I mean, I'm paying for it even though I'm not using it.
oh no,
I'm
I don't,
living in
I've
town
never
now.
received the hardware. So they take your $100 deposit.
I
and then-
have it. I
yeah.
have all the stuff. All you have to do is plug it in.
All right.
It's very simple.
I gotta figure out where to put it too, though. I have a lot of trees in my
You need to
way.
have 180 degrees of,
Yeah, I'm thinking it has to go on top of my house, which is
is
another.
this all being recorded?
Yes,
Oh my
Probably.
God.
Well, the worst thing that'll happen is it won't work and then there'll
Right.
be no,
And then I'll be right back where I was.
But I'm glad you're
Ernie's got one,
thinking
he's
about
nice,
this, because
so
I
that's
think
good.
it's really important for people with mental health issues
all
and health
good.
issues and older people, being able to have telemedicine. I think there's so much opportunity.
Yeah, the
benefit the
telemedicine part
community.
for out here, we think would be a no-brainer, just because then people don't have to go back and forth for every visit, but.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're thinking about it.
Anyone else? I move we adjourn.
Second.
Yes.
All those in favor? There we go. Thank
I
you,
should have
everyone.
talked to you about that after the meeting.